Today, I'm going to tell you something that might shake your thinking. Something that goes against what you've been told your entire life. We live in a world where we're constantly trying to explain ourselves, prove ourselves, and defend ourselves, our choices, our beliefs, our values. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone a defense for being who you are. The moment you start defending yourself is the moment you give someone the power to judge you. And once you give them that power, you start shrinking to fit into a world that was never built to hold your greatness. So today, I challenge that habit. I challenge that fear. I challenge you. Silence is strength, not surrender. It's a statement that cuts deep into the core of human psychology and social behavior. In a world that constantly demands a reaction, an explanation, a justification, silence is often misunderstood. People mistake it for weakness. They believe if you are not speaking, you are losing. But silence, when chosen consciously, is one of the most powerful tools you possess. It's not the silence of submission, it's the silence of mastery. Mastery over your emotions, your impulses, and your energy. We live in a world saturated with noise. Social media, 24/7 news, constant opinions, endless arguments. Everyone has something to say and everyone wants to be heard. In such a world, silence becomes rebellion. It's a refusal to be dragged into the chaos. It's a statement that says, I don't need to explain myself to be valid. When you remain silent in the face of accusation, provocation, or misunderstanding, you are not waving a white flag. You are standing firm with unshakable self-belief. You're saying, my truth doesn't need your approval. Silence is often interpreted as passivity, but nothing could be further from the truth. True silence is active. It is intentional. It is calculated. It is the pause before the strike, the space before the response, the breath before the breakthrough. When someone speaks out of anger or insecurity and you remain calm and silent, you disarm them. They are expecting a reaction. They want you to defend, to explain, to justify. Because once you do that, you've entered their game. And the moment you step into their arena, you've already lost part of your power. People who are insecure with themselves crave validation from others. They want to be right, not just in their own eyes, but in everyone else's. So they argue, they defend, they push, they demand answers. But when you don't react, you deny them the fuel they need to feel superior. You don't have to scream to prove your strength. You don't have to clap back to prove your intelligence. You don't have to engage to prove your worth. Silence tells them, and yourself, that you are enough as you are. Silence can feel uncomfortable, especially when you're misunderstood. It's tempting to jump in and clarify your intentions, explain your side of the story, correct the misperceptions. But silence requires emotional maturity. It's the choice to let go of the need to be seen a certain way by others. Because the truth is, no matter how much you explain, people will only understand from the level of perception they're at. You could pour your heart out and someone still might not get it. So why waste your energy trying to convince someone who has already decided not to see you clearly? When you master the art of silence, you begin to protect your peace. You stop leaking energy into every argument, every disagreement, every conflict. You learn that your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. You become discerning. Not every comment needs a reply. Not every accusation needs a rebuttal. Not every situation needs your involvement. Some things are better left untouched, unanswered, and unbothered. That is strength, not apathy, not avoidance, but strength. There is also a strategic element to silence. In moments of confrontation, silence can shift the power dynamic. While the other person is ranting, guessing, over-explaining, or overreaching, you are centered. You are watching, you are listening, you are assessing. And in that silence, you gain insight. You begin to understand not just what is being said, but what is behind the words. The fear, the insecurity, the projection. And because you didn't react emotionally, you maintain the higher ground. Some of the most powerful people in history understood the power of silence. They didn't rush to defend themselves against every rumor, every lie, every insult. They knew that truth reveals itself in time. That reputations built on integrity don't crumble under criticism. That silence, when backed by solid character and unshakable self-worth, is louder than any defense you could offer. They moved with intention, and they let their actions, not their words, speak on their behalf. You also start to notice how silence influences others. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to sit with their own words, their own emotions. When you stop reacting, people are left with their own noise. They start to question themselves. Was I too harsh? Did I cross a line? Why didn't they say anything? Your silence becomes a mirror, and people often don't like what they see. But it's in that discomfort that growth can happen, not just for you, but for those around you. This doesn't mean silence is always the answer. There are moments in life when your voice must be heard, when you must stand up, speak out, and take a firm stand. But that's not defending yourself. That's defining yourself. That's speaking from a place of grounded truth, not emotional reaction. The kind of silence we're talking about isn't avoidance, it's alignment. It's knowing when to speak and when to let your stillness speak louder. There is a kind of dignity in silence. It's the dignity of not needing to fight every battle, of not needing to explain every move, of not seeking constant validation. When you trust yourself, you don't panic when someone misunderstands you. You don't crumble when someone judges you unfairly. You don't beg to be seen, heard, or accepted, because you have already accepted yourself. In professional settings, silence can be a tactical advantage. While others scramble to prove their competence, to assert their dominance, to mark their territory, you stay calm, you listen more than you speak. You observe patterns, you notice what others miss. You choose your words carefully, and when you do speak, people listen. Not because you speak often, but because your words carry weight. Your silence has given them value. In relationships, silence can be a way to set boundaries. When you stop responding to manipulation, guilt trips, or emotional games, you are drawing a line. You are saying, "This is where I end," and you begin. It's not cold. It's not unkind. It's self-respect. And the people who truly value you will learn to respect it. Those who don't will be confused or offended, but that's okay. Silence filters out what doesn't belong. Even in moments of personal failure or embarrassment, silence can be powerful. When you fall, you don't need to announce your comeback. Just get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. Let your results speak for you. Let your growth be your response. There's something deeply inspiring about someone who doesn't make noise about their process, but lets their transformation be seen in time. That kind of silence builds legacy. Emotionally, silence teaches you patience. It teaches you to pause, to breathe, to think. You learn to respond rather than react. You stop making decisions out of anger, fear, or pride. You become more thoughtful, more centered, more resilient. You realize that not everything deserves your immediate attention. Not every emotion needs to be acted on. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is sit with your feelings, let them pass, and then move forward with clarity. Culturally, we are conditioned to equate speaking with power. But many of the strongest individuals you will ever meet are not the loudest. They are the calmest. They have nothing to prove, no one to impress. Their power comes from within. Their silence is not absence. It is presence. It is a quiet kind of confidence that doesn't need validation. And while silence can be uncomfortable, it also creates space. Space for reflection. Space for healing. Space for growth. In silence, we reconnect with ourselves. We hear our own thoughts without the noise of the world drowning them out. We remember who we are without the influence of others telling us who we should be. Silence, in its purest form, is clarity. There's a reason why some of the most profound moments in life are silent. The awe of standing before something greater than yourself. The calm before a storm. The stillness of a decisive moment. In silence, time seems to slow down. You feel more. You see more. You understand more. And when you stop filling every gap with noise, you begin to realize how powerful those gaps really are. They're not empty. They're full of potential. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your peace than someone else's opinion. It means you are choosing your battles wisely. It means you are prioritizing your energy, your growth, your truth. And that kind of silence is far from surrender. It is a declaration that says, I don't need to be loud to be heard. I don't need to be seen to have value. I don't need to defend myself to know I'm right. Your actions are your loudest defense. In a world where words are cheap and opinions fly freely, it's easy to get caught up in trying to prove yourself through explanations, arguments, and verbal justifications. But the truth is, no matter how eloquently you speak, how passionately you argue, or how carefully you craft your responses, words alone rarely change minds. People will doubt you, misunderstand you, question your intentions, and even attack your character. But the one thing they cannot ignore, deny, or twist is what you consistently do. Your behavior, your discipline, your commitment, your results. Those are your real statements to the world. Actions cut through noise. They are immune to manipulation. When you act with integrity, when your results align with your values, you no longer need to defend yourself against criticism. The evidence is right there. You don't need to tell people who you are. You show them. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You live it. You embody it. And that is far more powerful than any speech or argument you could offer. When someone doubts your ambition, prove them wrong not by arguing about your dreams, but by showing up every day and putting in the work. When someone questions your loyalty, you don't convince them with words, you prove it through consistency, honesty, and time. When someone labels you as weak, incapable, or undeserving, don't fall into the trap of trying to explain your story in hopes of changing their minds. Instead, build your story so powerfully through your actions that it becomes undeniable. Let the results of your discipline speak so loudly that even your silence makes noise. There's a certain type of confidence that comes from knowing your actions align with your values. It's the kind of inner peace that allows you to keep moving forward without needing to look over your shoulder. You're not trying to convince others anymore. You're not constantly adjusting yourself based on how people perceive you. You're too busy doing the work. You're too focused on progress to waste time proving yourself. That kind of focused, quiet determination is one of the most unstoppable forces in the world. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you. They may have said powerful things, but what truly makes them remarkable is what they've done. It's the obstacles they've overcome, the standards they've overcome, the sacrifices they've made, and the results they've achieved. Their actions, not their debates, are what built their legacy. And that same principle applies to you. People often get caught up in defending themselves because they want to be understood. It's natural. We all want people to see us for who we truly are. But the reality is that not everyone will. Some people will only see what they want to see. Some will twist your words, misinterpret your intentions, or judge you based on their own biases and insecurities. If you try to fight every false narrative, you'll exhaust yourself and still never fully win. But if you keep showing up, doing your best, holding your ground, and walking in integrity, your actions will speak on your behalf over time. There's a kind of resilience that comes from refusing to be distracted by noise. You learn to trust yourself. You learn that time is the ultimate filter. Lies fade, gossip disappears, and opinions shift, but consistent action builds a reputation that no one can take away from you. It's slow, it's steady, but it's permanent. Words might go viral for a moment, but actions build legacy. It's also important to understand that your actions don't just defend you from criticism. They also attract the right people into your life. The people who truly matter, the ones who will support you, respect you, and stand beside you, are not the ones who were convinced by your words. They are the ones who observed your actions over time. They saw how you handled pressure, how you treated others when no one was watching, how you kept going when things got hard. Those people don't need you to explain yourself. They already see you. Your actions are a reflection of your character. You can say all the right things, but if your behavior doesn't match, people will notice. Authenticity isn't about talking a good game. It's about living in alignment with your principles, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. That's what builds real trust. Not charisma, not clever comebacks, not polished presentations, just consistent, honest action. When you're under pressure, when people are criticizing you, when doubts start creeping in, it's tempting to try to argue your way out. But the strongest thing you can do is stay focused on what truly matters. You double down on your goals. You take care of your responsibilities. You treat people with respect. You keep showing up. That discipline becomes your defense. That focus becomes your fortress. And yes, sometimes people will still misjudge you. Even when your actions are honest and your intentions are pure, not everyone will see it. But the point isn't to prove yourself to everyone. The point is to be so grounded in your truth and so consistent in your behavior that the right people see it, and that why you never lose sight of it. Because the only validation that truly matters is the kind that comes from within. There is something deeply liberating about no longer needing to explain yourself. You stop trying to win people over. You stop trying to correct every misunderstanding. You realize that the people who are meant to understand you will understand you, and the people who aren't meant to won't, and that's okay. Because your energy is better spent building, creating, improving, and evolving than explaining. Action is clarity. In a world of mixed signals and endless opinions, action brings truth to the surface. When people wonder what you stand for, let your actions make it clear. When they doubt your commitment, let your consistency answer them. When they question your strength, let your endurance silence them. When they belittle your vision, let your results humble them. There's also a kind of patience required for this approach. Because while words offer instant gratification, actions take time to show results. You won't silence the critics overnight. You won't win everyone's respect immediately. But you don't need to. You're not in it for the quick win. You're in it for the long game. You're not looking to win arguments. You're building a life. A meaningful, purpose-driven life that stands as a quiet but unshakable defense against anything thrown your way. There are times in life when people will try to pull you into their drama. They'll provoke you, bait you, insult you, just to get a reaction. Don't take the bait. The minute you lower yourself to that level, you've given away your power. But when you stay calm, stay focused, and keep moving forward, you show them, and yourself, that you're operating on a different frequency. that you're too busy working on yourself to be dragged into pointless battles, that you've got bigger things to focus on than proving someone wrong. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, growth over gossip, action over argument, you win. Maybe not in the way the world defines winning, but in the way that truly matters. You're building something real. You're becoming someone solid. And eventually, the world will catch up. Eventually, the same people who doubted you will have no choice but to acknowledge what you've done, not because you told them, but because your life made it undeniable. This principle applies in all areas of life. In relationships where trust is built not by saying, "I love you," but by showing up, being present, and following through. In your career, where promotions are earned not by talking about how great you are, but by delivering consistent results. In your personal goals, where transformation is achieved not by posting about it, but by doing the daily work when no one is watching. That's the power of action. It doesn't need a spotlight, it becomes the spotlight. Even when life is unfair, when people judge you prematurely, or when circumstances don't go your way, you still have control over your actions. And that's where your real power lies. You may not control what people say or think about you, but you always control what you do next. You always control how you respond. And when you choose response over reaction, when you choose work over words, you reclaim your power. Your legacy will not be built on how well you argued your case. It will be built on how well you lived your truth, on how you showed up in the face of adversity. On the work you did when no one was watching, on the things you built, the lives you touched, the habits you mastered. That is what people will remember. That is what will last. Words fade. Narratives change. But your actions, those leave a mark that can't be erased.